Hello and welcome to the Mastering Keras course. So I'm really excited that you're joining me for this. My name is Mike Ashcroft. I've had over 10 years experience in advanced machine learning, and that's mainly been as a lecturer and researcher at Uppsala University in Sweden, where I teach and do research in artificial intelligence. But during this time, I've also founded and run a statistical machine learning consultancy where I've done a lot of industrial projects with major European companies and research agencies. So I'm not just used to thinking about the sorts of algorithms and techniques we'll be looking at in this course theoretically, but also actually applying them to the real world. So what are we going to look at in this Mastering Keras course? Well, we'll start preparing ourselves for mastering the Keras journey. We'll start looking at how to use Keras, and in particular, how to use the Keras functional API. We'll talk about what Keras is in the next video. Second section, well, the Keras functional API is a more flexible approach to working with Keras to build deep neural networks than the standard sequential approach that you're probably familiar with if you've just taken a handful of tutorials online. So in section 2, we want to make sure that we're all comfortable with Keras' functional API for specifying all the basic building blocks that we're going to need to use to work with the more advanced neural network models that we're going to encounter. Section 3, we're going to look at deep generative models, and we're going to implement two important ones. We're going to look at GANs, or generative adversarial networks, and variational autoencoders, and we're going to use these to generate synthetic data. Section 4, we'll see how to work with some of the more advanced convolutional neural network architectures that you've probably heard about, things like inception blocks, residual blocks, dense residual blocks. It will give us an understanding of state-of-the-art in deep learning image analysis. At the end of this section, we'll also talk and look and actually implement some transfer learning. In section 5, we'll look at object detection, which is detecting the type and location of different objects within a larger image or video. And this is going to show us how to go beyond simple image classification. Section 6 will be a lot of fun. We'll look at deep reinforcement learning. We'll implement some deep reinforcement learning systems that are able to learn to act intelligently based on feedback from their environment. And we'll use these as brains to control various AI gym reinforcement learning environments. Finally, in section 7, we'll look at two important methods. First of all, one-shot learning, where this refers to the ability of artificial intelligence systems to be able to learn correct outputs from single instances, to be able to generalize from exposure to a single training instance. Now, this is, of course, not the sort of thing you would expect to be able to do with a deep learning system, so it'll be really interesting. And we'll talk about semi-supervised learning techniques, and we'll see how we can implement semi-supervised deep learning techniques using ladder networks and GAN-based approaches. So to take this course, you really should be comfortable with Python. You should also have some experience with deep learning and data science more generally. It's assumed that you're not completely unexposed to deep learning and data science. You have some understanding of the basics. Ideally, you'll also have had some basic exposure to Keras, but this is not essential. What do I want you to get out of this course? Well, I want you to develop mastery of the Keras functional API for designing and implementing advanced deep learning techniques. I want you to be comfortable using the functional API. I want you to be able to design and implement advanced convolutional neural networks, to understand object detection networks, to be able to work with generative neural networks for synthetic data generation, and understand how to use semi-supervised learning, to be comfortable developing and implementing deep reinforcement learning systems, and also to understand how to implement deep one-shot learning systems based on these Siamese networks we'll look at. So let's get into things. So join me there.